What would you do if your own sister laughed at your career in front of a man who once stood trial in your courtroom? I'm Abigail Matthews. I'm 32 years old, and I'm the youngest district court judge appointed in our county in 50 years. But to my family, I'm just Abby, the quiet little sister who makes coffee in an office somewhere. Tonight, I'm standing in the corner of my sister Hannah's engagement party, watching her wave around a diamond ring the size of a grape. Everyone is clapping, laughing, toasting. Nobody knows the truth. Not my parents, not the guests, not even Hannah herself. They don't know that I wear a robe every morning, not because I'm lazy, but because I step into a courtroom and decide people's futures. I sentence, I acquit, I uphold the law. But in the Matthews family, Hannah is the golden child, always has been. And me, I'm the invisible one. Growing up, Hannah was the loud one, the pretty one, the achiever. 5 years older, she dominated every room she entered. Every time she won a spelling bee, my parents threw a party. Every time I won something, a nod. Maybe a good job, honey, if they remembered. I remember in 8th grade, I came home with straight A's. I was glowing. That same night, Hannah got accepted into a private college. Guess what we celebrated? Hint, as if being low maintenance made me less impressive. So I stopped trying to impress them. By high school, I found something that was mine. Law. I joined the mock trial team and discovered I had a gift. I was quiet, but when I spoke, people listened. I liked rules. I liked fairness. I liked truth. After college, I got into law school. No congratulations from my parents, just financial worries. Law school is expensive, my dad warned. Funny, nobody said a word when Hannah spent $80,000 on a marketing degree she never used. 3 years ago, at Thanksgiving, my aunt asked me what I did. I said I work with Judge Thompson. Before I could explain further, Hannah jumped in. She's his assistant. She answers phones and organizes his calendar. Then she smiled that smug fake smile she always does. She's basically his secretary, she added. I could have corrected her. I could have said I'd passed the bar. I could have said I was already building a name as a tough, fair prosecutor. But I didn't. I stayed silent. Let them believe what they wanted. I was tired. Tired of fighting to be seen. What they didn't know was that after my clerkship, I became one of the top prosecutors in the county. My conviction rate was near perfect. My reputation spread across Boston legal circles. And when Judge Thompson retired, he handpicked me to replace him. At 30, I became the youngest judge in our district's history. Not that my family noticed. They never read the papers, never asked real questions, never came to court. To them, I was still just Abby. So here we are tonight, at Hannah's big engagement bash. Twinkling lights, floral centerpieces, a champagne bar. The kind of party that screams, look at me. It's so very Hannah. My mom's fussing over the caterers. My dad's pouring drinks. Hannah, she's in a custom white dress, dragging Nathan, the groom-to-be, around like he's her prize. And then it happens. Nathan walks up to me while I'm refilling my glass of water. He smiles. You must be the sister, he says. I heard you're an admin or something. I blink. He has no idea. Then something clicks. His face looks familiar. Wait a second. I know this man. He was in my courtroom. 2 years ago, I ruled against his client in a high-profile housing dispute. He's a well-known attorney. He argued the case himself. I smirk slightly. Administrative? I repeat. Hannah walks over and links arms with him. She answers phones for a judge. We all start somewhere, right? She says, laughing. Nathan chuckles. Small world, huh? I used to work with Judge Thompson once. I look straight into his eyes. Calm, measured, and say just one word. Overruled. Silence. Nathan's smile fades. His eyes widen. He stares. You wait? Judge Matthews? I nod, slowly. Hannah freezes. You're a judge? I take a sip of water and smile. Yes, district court, appointed 2 years ago. Nathan clears his throat, clearly uncomfortable now. He knows exactly who I am. The color drains from Hannah's face. The silence around us grows heavy. For once in her life, she has nothing to say. And just like that, everything changes. The silence was heavy, like a thick fog settling over the backyard full of guests. I had said just one word, overruled. And with that, the entire image Hannah had built around me, the coffee-fetching little sister, shattered like cheap glass. Nathan, her fiancé, stood still, holding his champagne flute, like it might give him answers. He blinked, then let out a nervous laugh. Wait, you're that Judge Matthews? I nodded slowly, calmly. The same one who ruled against your firm in the Jefferson housing case, I said. He looked completely stunned. Of course he remembered that case. He had lost it, badly, and the judge who ruled against him was now standing at his engagement party as his future sister-in-law. Hannah looked like someone had slapped her. All color drained from her face. Her lips parted, but no words came out. It was the first time I'd seen her speechless. I turned back to my water and said nothing else. I didn't need to. I'd finally spoken the one truth I'd hidden for years, and now there was no going back. The rest of the party continued, but something had changed. People whispered. Some stole glances at me from behind their wine glasses. Others, like Aunt Sandra, tried to pretend everything was normal. But Hannah couldn't. She didn't come back to the center of the party for another hour. When she did, her smile was tight, her laugh too loud, and she clung to Nathan like he might slip away. Later that evening, I found myself in the kitchen, helping myself to a few mini quiches. My mother walked in. She looked uneasy. Abby, she said, setting down a tray. I didn't know that you were, a judge, I offered, not looking up. She nodded, biting her lip. Why didn't you tell us? I shrugged. You never asked. She blinked. Well, we didn't mean to assume. It's just when Hannah said. I cut her off gently. Mom, you believed what you wanted to believe. It was easier to think of me as the quiet one, the easy one, the helper. She said nothing. I didn't hide it to hurt you, I added. I just got tired of correcting people who never cared to listen. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she had no defense. The next day, my phone rang. Hannah. I stared at her name for a long moment before answering. Hey, I said. What the hell, Abby? She snapped. No hello? No how are you? You embarrassed me last night. I raised an eyebrow. Embarrassed you? I answered a question honestly. You humiliated me in front of Nathan and his family. I didn't lie, Hannah, I said calmly. You did. For years. She scoffed. It wasn't a big deal. We were just joking. You could have corrected us any time. I could have, I agreed. But it felt good to let you live in your fantasy. It was easier for both of us. There was silence on the line. You always act like a victim, she said finally. Like I took something from you. You didn't take anything, I replied. You just refused to share the stage, even when no one asked you to. The call ended with no apology, no real conversation. Typical Hannah, always focused on how she feels. That weekend, I got a message from Nathan. He asked to meet for coffee. Out of curiosity, I agreed. We met at a small cafe near the courthouse. He looked different, more serious, less like the polished attorney I remembered, more like a man trying to solve a puzzle. I just wanted to say, he began, I'm sorry. I raised an eyebrow. For what? For judging you. For not knowing. For assuming what Hannah said was true. He paused. And also, thank you for being fair during that case. I was a jerk in court. You still treated me with respect. I nodded. Court isn't personal. It's about the law. He smiled, almost sheepishly. I think I might have underestimated the wrong sister. That made me pause. It wasn't a compliment I needed, but it was one I deserved. A week later, my father called. Not texted. Called. That almost never happened. Abigail, he said, his voice low and cautious. I read the article about you, the one from the legal journal. Why didn't you tell us sooner? I did, I said simply. You just didn't listen. He was quiet for a long time. I'm sorry. We should have paid more attention. That was the closest I would ever get to an apology. But it was enough. For now. Hannah's wedding was still months away. I didn't know yet if I'd be invited. And honestly, I didn't care. Because something had changed inside me. I wasn't the invisible sister anymore. I wasn't just the easy one. I wasn't a coffee-fetching assistant. I was Judge Abigail Matthews. And finally, I had nothing left to prove. 3 weeks passed after Hannah's engagement party, and things were quiet. Too quiet. No family group chats. No texts from Mom asking if I was coming over. No phone calls from Dad about his golf scores or funny articles he thought I'd like. And most surprisingly, no word from Hannah. I knew what was happening. They were regrouping, trying to figure out how to spin what had happened. How to make me small again. How to make her shine again. But they couldn't. Not anymore. One Wednesday morning, I was in my chambers reviewing motions when an envelope arrived. Hand-delivered, gold-trimmed. It was Hannah's wedding invitation. I sat still, holding it. Thick paper. Lavish calligraphy. Of course. It screamed, look at me. But what really caught my eye was the sticky note tucked inside. From my mother. It read, please don't say anything about your job at the wedding. It's Hannah's day. I laughed. Out loud. Right there at my desk. I didn't need a courtroom to know when I was being silenced. Even now, after everything, they wanted me to stay quiet. That night, I called my mom. She answered on the second ring. Hi, sweetheart, she said like everything was normal. Got the invitation, I said. Oh good, she replied. Wasn't it beautiful? It was, I said flatly. But I had a question about the note. She hesitated. Well, it's just, we thought maybe it would be best if you didn't bring attention to yourself. Hannah's been feeling a little fragile. Fragile, I repeated. She's getting married in a designer dress with a full orchestra playing Beyoncé. And I'm not allowed to exist as a judge because that's too much? Abigail, that's not what we meant. I'm not hiding who I am anymore, Mom. Silence. I've spent 30 years letting this family shrink me down to something quiet, safe, and forgettable. I'm done. Still silence. Then finally a quiet I see. But I don't think she did. Not yet. I almost didn't go to the wedding. I thought about RSVPing no, skipping the whole thing, letting them pretend I was busy stamping envelopes in some government office. But something inside me said, go, let them see you. All of you. The wedding was held at a historic estate in Cape Cod. A massive outdoor event with hundreds of guests, swans in a pond and a string quartet playing Perfect by Ed Sheeran. I wore a sleek navy blue gown. Not flashy, not loud, but sharp, strong, professional. When I arrived, heads turned. Some people recognized me from court cases. Others just knew I was the mystery sister from the party. A few whispered. I let them. During the reception, I kept to myself, spoke politely to a few guests, avoided the champagne tower.
Watched from the side as Hannah took center stage again like she was born there. I almost left early, until it happened. They handed the mic to Hannah for her toast. She thanked Nathan. She thanked the guests. Then she looked right at me. And to my little sister Abby, she said, raising her glass, who's made quite a splash recently. I guess we both have important jobs now. Laughter. Not cruel. Not kind. Just amused. I clenched my jaw. She continued, but no matter what, I'll always remember the Abby who followed me around with scraped knees and messy braids. More polite laughter. I smiled, then stood up. I wasn't planning on speaking, but something in me said, it's time. The DJ offered me the mic. I took it slowly. Thank you, Hannah, I began. I'll always remember those days too. But since we're talking about memories, I'd like to share one of my own. Now I had their attention. The entire tent fell quiet. When I was in law school, I said, my voice clear. I used to imagine moments like this. Not weddings, but moments where I'd finally be seen by the people who mattered. I paused. My sister and I took different paths. She built a life in business and marketing. I built mine in the courtroom. Not many people know that I was appointed as a district court judge at 30. I didn't share that, not because I was ashamed, but because for most of my life my voice wasn't something people listened to. Hannah's smile had vanished. I'm not telling you this to outshine anyone. I'm telling you because this is me, and I won't shrink anymore to fit someone else's story. I handed the mic back. There was no applause, just silence. And then, one guest started clapping, then another, and another, until half the tent was standing, clapping. I locked eyes with my father. He looked stunned. And for the first time in years, I felt free. After the speech, I walked out into the cool night air. Nathan followed me. He was alone. That was powerful, he said. She's never going to admit it, but I think she needed to hear that. I nodded. She probably won't talk to me for a while. He shrugged. You earned the right to be seen, Abigail. Then he hesitated. For what it's worth, I think she's always been a little scared of you. I raised an eyebrow. Scared? Yeah, he said, because deep down she knew who you were becoming. She just didn't want to look. As I drove home that night, something shifted inside me. Not because I had finally said it out loud, but because I had finally said it to myself. I wasn't less than. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the supporting character in Hannah's movie. I was the one writing my own story. And I was just getting started. The week after Hannah's wedding felt oddly calm. No one called. No one texted. Not even the usual family group messages about birthdays or casserole recipes. I thought maybe I had finally earned peace, but I should have known better. In my family, silence was never peace. It was a warning. I was walking out of the courthouse one afternoon, my heels echoing on the marble steps, when I got the call. Hannah. I hesitated. A part of me didn't want to answer, but another part, the one that still longed for resolution, did. I swiped to accept. Hello? Her voice was sharp, tight. Are you happy now? I stopped walking. What do you mean? You just had to make my wedding about you, didn't you? She snapped. I sighed. Hannah, I didn't make it about me. I told the truth. No, you made me look like a liar. I stayed quiet for a moment, then replied calmly. You did that all on your own. There was a pause, and then she said something I'll never forget. You were never supposed to be more than me, Abby. I blinked. What? You were the quiet one, she continued. The one who followed me around, who cried when she scraped her knee. The one Mom always said wouldn't survive 5 minutes on her own. My chest tightened, but I let her speak. And then suddenly you're this judge, and everyone's looking at you like you're special, like you matter more. That's not fair. I swallowed hard.
It's not about mattering more, Hannah. It's about finally being seen. She laughed bitterly. Oh, please, you think this is about being seen? You don't even know the full story. You never did. I frowned. What are you talking about? She hesitated. And then, in the same angry, hurt tone, she said, Mom and Dad knew exactly what you were capable of. That's why they tried to keep you small. You were the one who tested into the gifted program, she said, not me. You were the one with the high IQ, the perfect scores, but they pulled you out. My mind started racing. That's not true. It is. You don't remember, do you? You were in the advanced group in elementary school for like 2 months. Then Mom said it was too stressful for you, but really, she just didn't want you to outshine me. My stomach turned. That's ridiculous, I muttered, but my voice lacked conviction. Is it? She snapped. Why do you think they always downplayed your wins? Why do you think they never asked questions about your job? Silence again. Then softly she added, because they were afraid of what you might become. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to remember. Bits and pieces came back. Flashcards, advanced books, a teacher named Mrs. Porter praising my essays. Then, nothing. I never thought about why those things stopped. I just assumed I'd fallen behind, that I wasn't as bright as Hannah. But what if that wasn't the truth? What if all this time I was molded to be less, not by chance, but by choice? The next morning, I called my mom. She answered cheerfully. Good morning, sweetheart. Did you ever pull me out of the gifted program when I was little? I asked. She paused. I don't remember exactly. Why do you ask? Hannah told me something about you not wanting me to outshine her. My mom sighed. Oh, Abigail, don't listen to everything your sister says when she's upset. Is it true? Another pause. Then she said, you were a sensitive child. We didn't want to pressure you. We made the best decisions we could. That wasn't a no, and it wasn't enough. I hung up the phone with my hands shaking, not with sadness, with clarity. I finally saw the pattern, the praise Hannah got, the concern I received. One was encouraged to rise, the other was gently, quietly kept in her place. That weekend, I visited my childhood home. I walked through the rooms that once felt safe, but now felt staged, too clean, too silent. My dad was reading on the porch. "Hi, honey," he said. "Didn't expect you. I needed to ask something," I said. He looked up. "Did you and Mom ever decide to push me down to make things easier for Hannah?" He blinked. "Where is this coming from? Just answer me." He hesitated. Then in a low voice he said, "We didn't want you two to compete. That's not what I asked." He looked at the floor. "You were always going to win, Abigail. You had that edge, that drive. Hannah needed more support. And I needed what?" I asked. "To be hidden?" He didn't respond. I left that day knowing I could never unhear what I'd heard, could never unknow what I now knew. My success wasn't just overlooked, it was intentionally managed. But not anymore. That Monday, I arrived at the courthouse earlier than usual. I opened a blank file and began writing my keynote speech. 3 weeks from now, I would be honored at the State Judicial Conference, and this time my family would be invited, not because I needed their validation, but because I was done living in their shadow. They needed to see who I was, who I had always been. 3 weeks later, I stood backstage at the Massachusetts State Judicial Conference. A dark blue curtain separated me from the crowd of judges, attorneys, scholars, and yes, reporters. I held my speech in my hands, the pages warm from being folded and unfolded all morning. The lights beyond the curtain glowed. A soft hum of polite conversation floated through the air. And somewhere out there, sitting in the second row, were my parents and my sister Hannah. They had come. I wasn't sure they would, but I sent the invitation anyway. Not for them, for me. When the host called my name, I stepped into the spotlight. The applause was polite at first, then stronger. I approached the podium, took a breath, and looked out at the sea of faces. I didn't see Hannah at first. Then I spotted her, next to Mom, arms crossed, expression unreadable. But she was there. That was enough. "Good afternoon," I began. "My name is Abigail Matthews, and I'm honored to stand before you today as one of the youngest district court judges in Massachusetts history." Applause. "I've been asked to speak about justice, leadership, and perseverance, but I'd like to begin with a story." I paused, letting the room settle. For most of my life, I was quiet, not because I had nothing to say, but because I was raised to believe my voice didn't matter as much as others. I could feel the shift in the room. People leaned in, listening. I come from a family where praise was a limited resource, and no matter how hard I worked, I was always the easy one, the one who didn't need attention. I scanned the audience again, and this time I looked right at Hannah. My sister was the star. She was brilliant, bold, charming, and I loved her for that. But I didn't realize until much later that I was being encouraged to stay small, so she could shine bigger. My mother's eyes dropped to her lap. My achievements were quiet, straight A's, scholarships, law school acceptances, all met with nods and questions like, "Are you sure this is the right path?" A murmur ran through the room, but I kept going, not for applause, not for trophies, because I believed in something bigger than recognition. I believed in justice. I believed in the law, and I believed in truth. I looked down at my notes, then folded them shut. I didn't need them anymore. I never planned on being the youngest judge. I never planned on being underestimated by my own family. But it happened, and maybe you felt that too. Maybe you've been the quiet one, the overlooked one, the easy child, and maybe you've spent years wondering when someone would finally see you. I looked out, locking eyes with person after person. I stopped waiting to be seen. I earned my place, and now, I speak not just for myself, but for every girl who was told to sit down while someone else took the spotlight. Applause broke out. Louder this time, steady, real. My name is Judge Abigail Matthews, and I'm not quiet anymore. The room stood. Applause echoed from wall to wall, but I didn't look at the reporters, or the other judges, or the cameras. I looked at my mother, who had tears in her eyes, and my father, who stood a beat later than everyone else, and then at Hannah, who stayed seated. She didn't clap, she didn't smile, but she was listening, and for once, she had nothing to say. After the speech, I stepped down. People shook my hand, some asked for photos, others thanked me for speaking the truth out loud. Eventually, I saw my family making their way toward me. Hannah stood behind my parents, arms crossed, unreadable. My mother was the first to speak. "Abigail," she said softly, "that was powerful." She reached for my hand. "I'm sorry if we ever made you feel small." "If," I said gently. She nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. "You're right, we didn't see you, but we do now." My father stepped forward. "I'm proud of you. I always was. I just didn't say it enough." That was as close as he'd ever get to an apology. I accepted it with a nod. Then Hannah stepped forward. "Well," she said, "that was dramatic. Typical." I smiled. "Sometimes the truth is," I replied. She stared at me, then said, "You really are different now." "No," I said calmly.
I've always been this person, you just didn't want to look." She opened her mouth and then closed it, and for the second time in my life, Hannah Matthews had nothing to say. Weeks passed. I returned to my courtroom, my work, my life, but something had changed. Not just in my family, in me. I walked taller, spoke louder, smiled more, because the silence that had once protected me was now something I no longer needed. One evening, I received a card in the mail, no return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "You were always the smart one. I was just better at pretending. I see that now. H." I folded the note and placed it in my drawer, not because I needed it, but because finally she said it. I no longer live in Hannah's shadow. I never really did. She just stood in front of me, blocking the sun, but I moved, and now I see the light, and I will never let anyone dim it again.